Please join me in welcoming Mr. John Denton, Secretary General of the International Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Denton is also a member of the Steering Committee on the UN Global Crisis Response Group on Food, Energy, and Finance. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much, Tolu, and big shout out to my chair, Maria Fernanda Garza. It's good to see you here, and it's great to have been able to participate in some of the discussion today. First of all, let me also shout out, where's Sandra? I can't quite see. Oh, there you are. We had, I think, a very powerful and very useful board meeting this morning of the UN Global Compact, and I think one of the hallmarks of the strategy that the UNGC is taking forward is an understanding, but a need and a desire for great collaboration. And of course, what we see here today is a great collaboration between my organization, the humble representative of 55 million businesses globally in 197 countries, and the Global Compact. And I've got to tell you, there's so much we can do together, and I'm so excited about the commitments that you made today and that we all agreed to today about moving forward. Friends, who would have thought 7 years ago, on the other side of Manhattan, when the SDGs were brought into place in 2015, who would have thought that that year, 2015, which also saw then on the other side of the Atlantic in Paris, the Paris Agreement come together. 2015, what a momentous year. And we were all, I think, filled with optimism and hope. And there was a freshness flowing through, I think, the global world at the time. I wasn't part of those discussions. I'm kind of new to this process. But I do recall 2015 and the sense of, wow, this all happened by consensus. It seems like more than an eon ago now when we sit here in 2022. When we think about how the SDGs have been buffeted this year alone, but with a combination of the last 3 years of COVID, the pandemic, the way it played out, the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and the consequences of this regional conflict on a global basis. It's actually quite extraordinary. You know, today the Queen was buried, and thinking about that as an Australian, one thing I recall as a British Prime Minister's advice when asked, what will throw things off from a political perspective? And the answer was, events, my dear boy, events. Will we allow these events to throw us off course? What we strove for in 2015 actually saw real progress. We saw a reduction in mortality of children because of the SDGs. We saw a reduction in inequality because of the SDGs. Because of these events, we've been thrown off course and we've seen these amazing improvements reverse quite quickly. Is that good enough? We're just going to say we're buffeted, we're going to drift, or are we going to go back to the purpose here, which is to reduce inequality, to actually enable the world to operate? You know, I always say, people ask me at ICC, why are you guys so worried about the SDGs? These aren't really business issues. These are not hard business issues. What a load of rubbish. I mean, if we don't have a planet that we can do business on, if we have a situation where inequality erupts, as we're seeing challenges right now, and the actual social discourse in society is interrupted, how does business function? Oh, yeah, sure, there'll be some entrepreneurs who take some advantage in those moments, but businesses do not prosper when economies collapse, just by the way. And so it's in our interests to continue to look to the long term. It's interesting sitting on or participating, actually really participating. In fact, we've got a meeting of the Global Crisis Response Group, which Secretary General Guterres organized on Wednesday. And I have to say, when I sit here or stand here today, uniting business, UN private sector, UN, when we the ICC took to Secretary General Guterres the idea of effectively a trade agreement between Ukraine and Russia, which is the Black Sea Agreement, in the midst of the crisis, I was asked, why are you doing this with the UN? Because for me, the only room in the world in which an agreement could actually be reached between two combatants was a room that's curated, a global commons which is curated by the United Nations, as the United Nations curates the SDGs as well. And we did that not because of the conflict itself, it's because of the consequences. More than 2/3 of the ICC's extraordinary footprint is in developing and emerging economies. These are all fragile economies now. And they are bearing the brunt of the food crisis, the energy crisis, the financial crisis. And so again, we are motivated to act boldly in that context as well. And what are we looking for now when we think about the next iteration, the next period as we go towards 2030? The lessons we've learned is if you actually want to manage these risks, manage these events, you have to show resilience. You have to develop resilience. That's how we work our way through. That's how we think about the creation of an international system that can operate, which is characterized, I think, at the moment by a lack of cooperation. But where we see cooperation, it is actually extraordinary. Who would have thought that even in the midst of COVID, and yeah, it didn't work perfectly, we're able to come together and create an instrument like COVAX, the COVAX Council, which I also participated in as the private sector. Yes, it was insufficient. And yes, it didn't, but it was actually a good example again of global cooperation, as we're seeing at the moment with the way in which the UN is trying to create a world which can grapple with this regional and global implications. And one thing they have done, and this is why it's so great to see so many private sector people here, is realize by bringing the ICC into this global crisis response group, this is a recognition, a structural innovation that's never happened before. The private sector is there at the table because the hypothesis that I have, which I think is now shared, is tell me a global problem that can be solved without the private sector. You cannot solve, you cannot create the resilience, you cannot get to the SDGs without the private sector there. You cannot deal with, you cannot solve, you cannot apply Paris without the private sector there as a full-on committed party, bringing ideas, bringing real-time information, bringing concepts, bringing broader support, bringing political capital to help leaders traverse these areas. And this is a critical issue for us as we look forward to the next iteration. Resilience is necessary, building, I think, innovative systems that can enable us to think differently about how we achieve the SDGs, the collaboration between the ICC and the Global Compact at scale. Because in the end, we're not looking to tinker with the trajectory, we actually need to change the trajectory, so we need to do things differently. And it's good to see that there's an openness in the halls of the UN to do that. It's wonderful to be with you. The skies have opened up and it's pouring, so you're stuck here till 8 p.m. But I promise you one thing, that I will now finish. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, and indeed it is pouring down with rain. I had a quick check just a few minutes ago, but I think there's a great cocktail planned after this, so you can enjoy some beverages. I think it's been such a great afternoon, 2 exciting panels and great speakers, with John really just capping off about the power that comes together when we collaborate, both, as he says, within the corridors of the UN, but outside that. And I think that lays a really exciting path for what a good future looks like. I really just want to thank all of the speakers, the exciting panels. We kicked off with this amazing all-woman panel. I watched it from backstage, really expertly moderated, and the second panel as well. Thank you to all of you for your contributions to this exciting discussion. And to John, really, for his commitment to creating shared goals and a more sustainable future. Now more than ever, as I said in the beginning, it takes all of us together to create those solutions that we need and really collaborate to move the world and the world trajectory forward. So we're sitting here, a group of private sector leaders. There's a smaller group of special private sector leaders that I really want to recognize as we come to a close. These are leaders who found additional innovative ways to advance the SDGs through their business practices. So every year, the UN Global Compact recognizes a class of SDG pioneers. They're setting ambitious SDG targets, scaling impact within their companies, and driving forward principle-based approaches. These pioneers were selected through a robust methodology for reviewing process and selection criteria, reviews by colleagues, an external multi-stakeholder group. I mean, it was intense. I wouldn't want to go through any sort of selection process they have, but I want to guarantee you that they are truly the cream of the crop. Due to COVID, we missed the opportunity to invite these winners to New York over the past 2 years. So I'm really excited to have them here with us today. So I'm just going to call up their names and ask them to join me on the stage. Please hold your applause to the end. It's a fantastic cohort of SDG pioneers. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. I'm just going to call them up and join me on stage, please, when you do. So let me kick off from China. We have Chong Tong, who's a science and technology administrator in the Suzhou Power Supply Company, State Grid Corporation of China, and he's an SDG pioneer for climate adaptation. In the room, I hope. We did invite them for this year, right, team? From the United Kingdom, David Orr, Trade and Investment Account Leader from Mott MacDonald, SDG Pioneer for Climate Mitigation. There we go. From Brazil, Denise Hills, Sustainability Director for Latin America, Organización Natura Cosméticos. From Bulgaria, Dimitar Soskorkov, the chairperson of the supervisory board, Asal Medet JSC. He pioneered for digital transformation. From Singapore, Gabriel Tan, director of Guava Amenities, SDG pioneer for circular economy. From Netherlands, Iris van Broek, program manager corporate social responsibility at EMMA Safety Footwear, SDG pioneer in supply chain sustainability. From India, Ramkrishna Mukavili, founder and managing director of Mathiri Aquatech, SDG pioneer for water stewardship. And from Ukraine, Viktor Ivanchuk, CEO and founder, Astarta Kyiv, SDG pioneer for sustainable business strategy. I know we may not have all of them here, but let's give them a fine round of applause. Really great to just see all of these leaders here representing pioneering leadership in companies that are members of the Global Compact, but really demonstrating how individuals can shape strategy, drive forward results around the 10 principles. So congratulations to you all. Thank you so very much. I just want to mention that we have had one of our SDG pioneers from 2021 on the stage. I think you've seen him on the panel, Sumant Sinha of Renew Energy. He was here earlier. Is Sumant still here? Well, he was on the panel earlier. So Sumant also was an SDG pioneer last year. And he was a pioneer for energy transition and gender equality. So thank you all. I just wanted to end with this picture because it's truly through leadership, through growth of leadership, through leadership and continuing leadership transitions, that the private sector will continue to play a key role in driving forward these solutions we're looking for to address the world's most pressing problems. Thank you for joining us in today's Private Sector Forum. I hope the dialogue has left you energized, yet challenged, with a strong desire to collaborate to find all these solutions that we look for a better tomorrow. Thank you so very much.
Wait, you don't want to go yet, because you're not going to want to miss what I'm about to tell you, so just give me one quick second. Thank you, Sanda and John, for those closing remarks, and thank you all for being here. And as we wrap up this Private Sector Forum 2022, it has been my great pleasure to serve as your host and to listen to the thought-provoking panel discussion. So I know that you're not really listening to me anymore. You just want to know the good thing I'm about to say, so I will get right into it. There is a reception, like Sanda said. You need to know where it is to enjoy it. It is at the Pavilion, which is going to be just to your right. There's another reception to the left, which is the Legal Hour reception, but you guys are welcome to join us for an evening of networking at the Pavilion just to your right. Don't worry, you're not going to miss it. We have staff outside to guide you to the right place to get all nice and happy. Thank you again for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Congratulations.